Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd. And here you are, lucky enough to be attending the June 2015 PracticeMaster Virtual User Group meeting, where today we are talking about the timer and processing timer records. Mary Jo's going to tell you all about the timer, her favorite thing to do in PracticeMaster. I am going to talk to you about processing those records and turning them into fees, in addition to the one-off way that Mary Jo is going to show you to do it. But before that, a little bit of housekeeping real quick. This is the GoToWebinar Control panel. Well, maybe if I show my whatever. Hold on one second. Everybody bear with me. I guess I pressed the wrong button. There we go. That is the GoToWebinar Control panel. And if you are still seeing this, it is because you have not pressed this button that looks like an arrow pointing to the right, because pressing that button causes this big screen to fly right off the right-hand side of your screen and disappear. Once that happens, this button will turn into one that looks like an arrow pointing to the left, and clicking it again will cause this screen to come back onto your screen, this box to come back onto your screen, so that you can type a question here, hit the send button, and Leanne, our humble moderator, will recognize that you have a question, and she will wait for just the right time and interrupt Mary Jo or myself and ask your question on your behalf. If you have follow-up questions, if we get off track, if we are not answering the question you intended to ask, just type those follow-up or nudge questions back here. Remember to hit send. Leanne will keep us informed of everything that you say. If instead you're feeling a little bit more bold, you can press this button here that looks like an arrow pointing upward in front of a hand. That means raise your hand. Once you do that, you will alert Leanne to the fact that you have a question by raising your hand. She will recognize that. She will interrupt us, and she will unmute your microphone so you can answer your own question. Ask your own question. We'll answer it. You can ask it. If we get off track, if you have follow-up questions, that microphone will remain unmuted until we're done. So just keep talking to us, and we will be sure to get your question answered. So without further ado, I'm going to press this button here and this button here and that button there, and I'm going to make sure we get Mary Jo back into PracticeMaster, where she is going to tell us about the timer. And we're in the wrong PracticeMaster, Mary Jo. There we are.
Okay. So as Paul said, that's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing because when I click that timer, that means I have billable time. And at the end, I can convert that time so that, I get paid. So that is my favorite thing, and probably yours as well. We all want to get paid, right? So what I do, and we've talked about the timer in the past, so I've had some clients actually call me or email me and say, how exactly do you do it? How do you do it, Mary Jo? So I'm going to show you how I do it. When I come in the morning, the first thing that I do is I go to my timer window. And so I just click on this timer window and I open it up. And right now I have no timers in here started. So I want to fix that because I'm going to do some work today. So what I do is I just start clicking on this little new button here. There's a little piece of paper behind the timer there. And I just start a whole bunch of them. I haven't created these or assigned them to anybody, but I just start a bunch of them. Then I put in my first one, which is my non-billable time. So I will just assign this one. I will pick our ACS client. We don't have it in this. This is test data. But I would just put that in there as the ACS non-billable because I keep track of all my non-billable as well, or I try to. As Paul will probably, I do my best at my non-billable time. But here is where I would put in that ACS time. This one, I'll just pick somebody. This will be admin. I think we've got an admin client in our test data, and I would save it. Haven't started a timer yet. You can see it's all still, the date is 0, everything is 0, but I've got it ready to go to start my non-billable stuff. Then I start looking at my calendar and see all the appointments that I have that day. In your case, you might be looking at your desk and seeing all the files you have stacked there that you have to work on. And you can start these, and throughout the day you can keep adding more, or you can adjust it. But to start off with, I want to be prepared for the appointments I know I have. So I would just start clicking on these, and I would start putting in there the clients that I know that I have appointments with. So I'm just going to pick some in here. And again, I've just got a timer started, and it's ready to go. I haven't begun timing anything. I'm not billing anything yet, but I'm ready to go with those clients when that happens. And then I just leave the rest. If I don't know anybody else, I just leave these empty for right now because I might get a call that I wasn't expecting, or I might get an email that I have to answer that I wasn't expecting, and I can, that might require a phone call or additional work that I want to time. So I just have these ready to go. So probably the beginning of my day, usually for me, is it's non-billable because I'm looking at my emails, I'm looking at my calendar, I'm trying to get my day planned out to make sure that I have everything. So I immediately just start this non-billable timer. I go do those tasks, and you can see it put in the date. Now we're in test data, so it thinks we're in November of 2014. And you can adjust these columns a little bit to see a little more of each. If if it's cutting off something, the client name here is cutting off, I can drag that over to see a little more of that. If you never look at contact, you can actually drag these over on top and hide them. I just drag that description over on top of that other column. If I want it back, I can just drag this back over and I can show it again. So you can kind of play with the view and all of those things. But here I would be doing my non-billable, and then I get my first appointment that I have to do. So I would just stop that timer. A couple ways to stop it. I can just click on this little play button over here and stop it, or I could click on this one up here. Either one can stop that timer, and I can start a new one. Again, I can start it either by clicking on it here or up here. So I'm just going to highlight the second one. I'm ready to work for Andrew Gilbert. Go ahead and start that timer. The whole time I'm on that appointment, whether it's a call or I'm working on a file or I'm doing things, that timer is running. As soon as I stop it to go to another, let's say in the middle of working on Andrew Gilbert, I get a phone call that I have to take and I have to interrupt this. It's very easy. I just go up and maybe I don't even have this one planned. I just pick one. I can pick the top, the bottom, any of these empty ones, and I'll just start it. That automatically stops my timer for Gilbert and it starts. I don't have to worry about putting in who this timer is for right now. I can take the call, I can get it done, and then I can come back in. I'm timing that call. I would stop that timer, then I can double click on that, and I can go in and assign who that call was for at that time. You don't have to panic. You can just go in, start the timer. The idea is to try to capture as much time as you can. You're going to forget to start a timer, and you're going to forget to stop one. That's just the nature of our work. We get very busy and crazy, and you're going to go to lunch, and you're going to forget to stop your timer. Or you're going to be maybe 15 minutes into a call and realize, oh my gosh, I didn't start my timer. Well, all you have to do is just come into the timer and just start it when you remember, because you can go in and you can edit those times. So let's say that I started this call at 2 o'clock, but I forgot to start my timer. I can come in here and start it as soon as I remember. When I hang up, I can stop it, double click on here. I can go in, assign the client, and then I can come over here to my little edit times, and I can change it, and I can back this up to 2 o'clock. I have that ability to manually override and tell it and let it go ahead and then calculate my timeout. So I've just went back and started it when it was supposed to be started, and then I already know when it stopped because I stopped it. If you forget to stop one and you get back from lunch, obviously well, I went to lunch at 12:30, whatever it was. I can go and I can edit the end time to be 12:30. Usually you kind of can get in that ballpark pretty closely. So once I've assigned this, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of this one, I'll save what I did. So let's say I'm done working on Andrew Gilbert, and I want to go in and put in what I did. So if I double click on that, I can come into this little note box. This is just a journal window, and I can type in what I did, conference with client, to discuss whatever it is. This can be a long description. This can be paragraphs long. This is the journal note part of this, so it can be as long as you want. I typically, in the way that I work, I type in what I did, and when I convert it to feed, that's what's going to show on the bill. But you might have 3 paragraphs here of all of the things you discussed with Andrew Gilbert, and then on the bill, you might change that to just say conference with client because that's what you want it to say. So just keep in mind there's a couple of different ways that you can put what you're typing in here depending on the way that you work. So for me, I would just type conference with client, and then over here I'm done. I've timed out everything that I have. I've put in my description of what I want it to say, and then I go over here to quick clicks and I can convert it to a fee right away. Now, I may or may not convert it right away. It just depends on what I've been doing. If I've been working on this client and it was just a quick question that they had and I answered the question, I probably would just convert it right then and there. If this is something that I've been working on for a while and they had a question here and there's some follow-up things that they might have, I'll just leave that sitting in my timer till the end of the day, and then I'll convert that to a fee. Because then if they call back, I can just restart that timer again, and I can add to it, and I can amend my description and add on what else I've answered for them. So it just depends. And there's been times where I've converted it, and then they have called back and had another question. I just start a new timer, and sometimes I'll just go back to the original and change it, or I just might convert a second one. It's all in your preference, but the idea is to always have that timer going all the time to capture that time. So when I'm ready to convert, I'm just going to click Convert to Fee, and it pops this up because I haven't saved my journal note yet. And I do this purposely because I'm trying to reduce clicks. I could have saved the note and it would have taken me back out to the list and I could have clicked on it and converted fee. I don't want to do that. I just know I want to convert this to a fee. I put my description in. As soon as I click Convert Fee, it's just going to ask me once, do you want to save the journal note? Yes, I do. And it takes me right into the fee window. It's already calculated, rounding to the nearest tenth, at least 1/10 and rounding to the nearest tenth, because I've set up my convert to fee settings that way. And we have done webinars on convert to fee settings, so if you want to know more about that, when Paul shows you at the end of how you can go into our website and search, you could search for convert to fee settings and find another webinar on how we talked about this. But we've defaulted it to be round at least a tenth and then round to the nearest tenth. So here's my fee window, just like any other fee window I would have. I could adjust it if I wanted to. If again, if they had called back and I just wanted to quickly just add another tenth, I could do that. But for the most part, I would just leave this here and I would just save it. And I would save that entry, and then it's going to let me close it. That falls off my timer window because I've already converted it, and it's done. You notice the ones I haven't converted are still on here. So they're just waiting to decide, do you want to convert it? What do you want to do? I've got these that I started that I haven't assigned a client to that I would do. And I just kind of work through this list, making sure that I've billed everything for the day and that I've captured everything for the day. So it works very well. I don't have to, miss any time. If I'm constantly going back and forth, at first it's a little bit awkward because you're flipping back and forth, but you get used to it real quick and you just flip and say, okay, I'm on this client, got it. I'm on this client, got it. I'm going up here to a new client, put in the information, stop it. And then I can bill everything, either here or at the end, and Paul's going to even show you another way that you can bill it, but that's there. Now, I just started a basic new timer window. That's usually all I ever work with. But sometimes you may want it to be coded when it comes into my journal window that's coded as a timer task. Sometimes you might want it to say phone task. Sometimes you might want it to say research task. If that's the case, you just would click this and it would start a new phone task. Everything is the same except, we must have a workflow in here, so everything is the same except it has just that it's the phone window. It's the phone note window here. That's the only difference, but it will still calculate and it will still time for you until you're finished, and you just stop it and you can convert it just like you can the other, and it would say phone instead of timer task in the list. So that's just, same thing with research. You're starting research on the internet and you want to go ahead and start a research timer, you can do that here as well. A couple of settings in here that you can use. You can do your visual timer display. You can do your edit the selected record, and you can edit the selected time. And again, these are all, if I double click on it, it's the same things that I have in here, entering time or editing times and doing things that I can double click and get to. So it's just up here on the box on the top. So that's how I use it. That's how I convert. That's how I plan my day, and I get through my day. And usually, if I'm having, I'm pretty good about the non-billable. Occasionally, I'll get, forget to turn it on. But again, you can go back and you can edit that and capture your whole day. So very good for associates or attorneys or anybody, paralegals, anybody that you want to keep track of their time for their day, you can do that. So
I will add that sometimes attorneys get stuck on the timer aspect. They say, well, I don't want to time my tasks. I just want to keep track of them, and then at the end of the day, I look and I say, I'm going to bill a tenth of an hour for this. I'm going to bill 8/10 of an hour for that. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Don't get hung up on the word timer, because this is still a hugely valuable worksheet, if you will. It mm-hmm. replaces that blank sheet of timesheet paper mm-hmm. that you have on your desk. Mm-hmm. Gives you a place to keep all your entries, and when you convert them to fees, they disappear from this list. So it's kind of like an expanding and contracting list of the stuff that's still pending to be billed for that day, mm-hmm. whether you use the timer or not. Of course, Mary Jo loves the timer, and we have a lot of attorneys that love the timer, but some of them say, oh, no, that's not for me because I don't want to time what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. It's still an awesome place to keep track of that stuff.
Yeah, and one other thing, like at the end of the day, if I'm not going to bill something or I just want this off the list, maybe I just want the journal record, whatever, there's a couple of things you can do. One, let's say that this admin time, I'm not going to do anything with it. I normally do have an admin client that I have set up as non-billable that I do keep track of that. But if I didn't, I just want to get rid of this. Either I started a timer and I didn't even need it or whatever. I'm going to just go in, double-click it, and I'm going to delete it. So I'm just going to hit the trash can. This deletes the record in its entirety, and it's off my list. If I want to maintain the journal record, I don't want to bill it, but I just want to have that journal record that I did something in the time that I did it. I can right-click, and I can just mark it as hidden. Or remove the task. I can just remove the task. That takes it off of there, but that still keeps my journal record. So I can delete it to get rid of it, or I can remove the task. So
awesome.
That's it, Paul.
You start your day with a blank one that you very quickly build on, and you end your day with a blank one. And in between, you hopefully bill lots and lots of time.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about, Mary Jo showed you how you create one of these and keep track of who it's for and do your timing, and then you use this convert to fee to turn it into a billing entry. Some people like to do that. We call that one-off conversion, meaning you take them one at a time from your timer list and you convert them to fee. We have a place in PracticeMaster that keeps track of not only the timer records, but your calendar records and your emails that you journal, and perhaps your phone tasks that you start but that you don't use the timer for. Or perhaps you're creating just regular notes, regular journal notes. So maybe you come in here and you pull up a client and you go over and you keep track of a note. I talked to this guy. And maybe you go into Outlook and you take some emails and you journal them so they show up on the email tab. Those are all things that could turn into time. And you can turn those things into time a lot of ways. But if you're one of those people who at the end of the day likes to look at everything you did and see if there's anything in there that you should bill for that you didn't catch already, this is the place to go. It's called File, and it's called Process Timer Records. Now right there, I think that's a little misleading. What you saw Mary Jo just do took place entirely in the timer, and she created these things called timer records, and then later she showed you how you could also create phone record journal entries, and there was another one, I can't remember what it was. So you would think that this would only show those records that were created through the timer, but that's not true. It shows you everything that you've done, whether it was done through the timer, those are the T's, or whether it was a phone task that you created, or an email that you journaled. All of these, or a note that you took while you were talking to a client on the phone. So all of these things will show up in the system in the Process Timer Records screen. And we've got some, in version 17.1, we've got these new quick views. And so they've built some in for by type or just phone and email, or My Journal, which just shows you your stuff. And so you can take these and say, yeah, okay, I want to also convert these to time. Now, this can be used with the timer doing exactly what Mary Jo showed you, because once you convert it to a fee, it drops off this list. But these are all the timer records that weren't converted to a fee, and these are some other records that were not created through the timer, but that still could potentially turn into a fee. It's kind of like saying, hey, we know you talked to these three guys, we know you took these emails and journaled them, we know you took these notes, we know you had the timer open for these things, let's turn them all into billable time. So when you take one of these, like this email, for instance, and you say combine to fee, or convert to fee, it does pretty much, and this is what always gets me, you got to check it. You can't just be highlighting it, you got to check it. It does pretty much the same thing. It converts it to a fee. Now, my email settings for convert to fee are set to default to 0.2 hours, and it defaults to email communication with blank regarding blank. And that's it. We fill in the blanks, we save it, and just like what you saw with Mary Jo, once we do it, it disappears from here. So let's say that these entries right here, these are those blank timer entries that she had. I want to get them off my list. I don't want to keep looking at them and wondering if I should bill for them. What do? I hide them. I mark them as hidden. Okay, here's a phone call that I made, and I'm making all this up. I don't know what these are really about. Here's an email that I generated. Here's another email to the same guy, and yet another email to the same guy. I don't want to bill him 4 separate entries for these. Let's combine them. And here it's defaulting to the actual timer entry, so I'm going to put in a real time of 0.8 hours. Phone and email correspondence with Bob re-contract. I'll try and type short things because I can't type and talk at the same time. Bam, I save it. I tell it to ignore the and bam, they're gone. They're gone. So now it's basically like a holding place for all the things you do in PracticeMaster that should or could be billable. Emails, notes, phone messages and phone notes, timer records. So whereas Mary Jo took them one at a time, and you can do that over here. You can go to your inbox, and you can go, let's say, to my deleted items, and I can click on an item and say, bill it as a fee. I can do that one at a time. I can take my notes that are in PracticeMaster, and I can pull them up on the client screen. Let's go, for instance, to this one here. I can take, do I have a note? No, but let's just add one. I'm just going to put in garbage. I can take these one at a time. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't have put in garbage. Yeah, I can take these one at a time, and I can convert them to fee. Everything that you can convert to fee over here in Process Timer Records, you can do one at a time. The only difference here is it's showing you everything that you haven't done so far since you last did it. It's that same concept of the timer being an expanding and collapsing list of things that you want to bill for. And when you bill for them, they disappear from the list. Only the difference with the timer is those are things that you say, hey, I'm going to start a timer for this, and I'm going to start a timer for that, and I'm going to start a timer for this other thing. Whereas this list here is things that you did maybe not even thinking that you might bill for them, but you just did them to get them onto the client's record. You took a note, you journaled an email, you checked the task off on your list. And so that is Process Timer Records. Mary Jo's poised to unmute herself. Nope, she was just messing with me. So that's that. Couple quick things to remember. We are on the verge of sunsetting version 15.1 and 15.2. If you attend these monthly, at least for the last 6 months, we have been mentioning this twice at every virtual user group meeting. You'll notice today we only mentioned it once. Why? Because tomorrow's your last day. At the end of June, version 15.1 and version 15.2 will be sunsetted, and you will no longer be able to get support for them. They will no longer be eligible to update automatically, or at least that'll drop off very soon. Bottom line, if you're on version 15.1 or 15.2, you are going to want to get up to the latest version before they're sunsetted tomorrow, or else you will lose that support. How do you tell? Very simple. Just go into Help and About whatever program you're in. Here I'm in PracticeMaster. And it'll tell you right up here what version of that software. And if you have version 17.1 for PracticeMaster, that's the same version you have for tabs. You can't have one version of one piece of software and a different version of a different piece of software. They're all going to be the same. So check that out. And also a good thing to mention right here, I think Mary Jo alluded to this, if you go to attorneycomputersystems.com, notice the emphasis on the S at the end of systems. If you go to attorneycomputersystems.com, you will get to our website where you can click on videos and you can see listed each of the different video groups that we have. We have the 3 virtual user group meetings, tabs, PracticeMaster, and WorldDocs. We have our coffee pot webinars that I give each month. We have the eBite video series, very short and concise videos that Mary Jo records, one for PracticeMaster, one for tabs, one for WorldDocs each month. We have the Paul and Mary Jo show. So if you click on, for instance, PracticeMaster Virtual User Group Meeting, you should see a little description of the meeting, a section on the next one, which is the one coming up in July. By the way, the topics for next month are going to be the people file. Mary Jo is going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about document assembly. So be sure to be here for that, and you can already go here and register for it. You're also going to scroll down and notice that you have recorded versions of all the ones we've done. This is the one we're at right now, so it's currently in post-production. But as we scroll down further, here's the one from last month, and you can just click them and watch them right there. We do have a curfew. We don't want you watching these after 2 o'clock in the morning simply because, well, you should have a life. If you're watching these at 2 o'clock in the morning, there might be something wrong. You might have a problem if, okay? So, and be sure to search. Mary Jo said something about, what were we talking about? Oh, gosh knows. Convert to fee and the settings, that's right. So if we type convert to fee settings, it should pop up with a list. And if we actually just go and search, it should pop up with another list of, and there we go, learn to set your convert to fee setting and learn the intricacies of the TABS 3 p.m. sync. So that was the subject of our virtual user group meeting in October of 2014. So there you have it. Everybody have a good rest of the day, rest of the month. We will see you in July. Thanks much. Bye-bye.